Shimodatta. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Baladev Jaya Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Sakta Shri Shvatidanta Swami His Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavandi Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, The Characteristics of King Puranjana, Text 18. Please repeat after me. Himanir Chara Viprushmat Himanir Chara Viprushmat Kusum Akara Vyayuna Kusum Akara Vayuna Chalat Pravala Vitapa Chalat Pravala Vitapa Nalini Tatta Sampadi Nalini Tatta Sampadi Himanir Chara Viprushmat Kusuma Karavayuna Chalat Pravala Vittapa Nalini Tatra Sampadi Himanir Chara Viprushma
Kalat Pravala Vitapa Nalini Tara Sampadi
Himanir Chara Viprushma Kusuma Karavayuna Chalat Pravala Vitapa Nalini Tata Sampadi
Himaniri Chahar Viprushmat Kusuma Karavayuna Chalapravala Vitapa Nalini Tata Sampadi
Nalini Tata Sampadi. Vaishnavis?
Himanir Chara Vishrumat
Himanir Chara Viprushmat
Kusuma Karavayuna Chalat Pravala Vitapa Nalini Tata Sampadi
Himanir Chara Viprushmat Kusuma Karavayuna Chalat Pravala Vitapa Nalini Tata Sampadi Himanir Chara Viprushmat Kusuma Karavayuna
Chalapravala Vitapa Nalini Tata Sampadi.
Word for word translation. Himanir Chara, from the icy mountain waterfall. Viprutmat, carrying particles of water. Kusuma Akara, springtime. Vayuna, by the air. Chalat, moving. Pravala, branches. Vitapa, trees. Nalini Tata, on the bank of the lake with lotus flowers. Sampadi, opulent. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The branches of the trees standing on the bank of the lake received particles of water carried by the spring air from the falls coming down from the icy mountain. Please repeat after me. The branches of the trees standing on the bank of the lake received particles of water carried by the spring air from the falls coming down from the icy mountain. Purport. In this verse, the word Hima Nirchara is particularly significant. The waterfall represents a kind of liquid humor or rasa relationship. In the body, there are different types of humor, rasa or mellow. The supreme mellow relationship is called the sexual mellow, adiras. When this adirasa or sex desire comes in contact with the spring air moved by Cupid, it becomes agitated. In other words, all these are representation of rupa, rasa, gandha, shabda and sparsha. The wind is sparsha or touch. The waterfall is rasa or taste. The spring air, kusumakara, is smell. All these varieties of enjoyment make life very pleasing, and thus we become captivated by material existence. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Once again the verse. The branches of the trees standing on the bank of the lake received particles of water carried by the spring air from the falls coming down from the icy mountain. Hare Krishna, the devotees. Thank you very much for choosing to be in Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's nice to see so many present. And thank you to Danda Prabhu for giving me this opportunity to engage a little bit with the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Rasam Alayam. And so we're in this chapter of the allegory of King Puranjana, for those of you who have not been here before. Narada Muni again appears on the scene to instruct Prachina Barhishat, the king, in detachment from this material world, because the king, having sent forth his sons to do austerities, still pretty much is, instead of focusing totally on Krishna and spiritual life, he's engaging in so many activities, karma kanda, to still enjoy in this world. So that's why Narada Muni has to be quite drastic, and that's why there's so many verses coming up also that go deeper and deeper into this basis of why sense enjoyment is not really for us. And we've been hearing in this analogy or allegory that the Puranjana is us, basically. It's the living entity who is in the body. And now different analogies are made just to make us more and more absorbed in understanding this connection of the soul with the body, and then also especially the body with the senses and its sense objects. So in this text, Srila Prabhupada is making the point in the purport about rasa. He speaks a lot about rasa, so I was a little bit digging in that topic. What is rasa? We speak a lot about rasa, and actually we have Astor Prabhu present. He could explain way better than what I'm going to little bit touch upon what rasa means in Ayurveda also. But in general, in all the Vedic tradition, rasa is used in many different contexts. So for example, there's the aesthetic and art shastras, which use the concept of rasa. So a painter, he's not supposed to just draw a painting which is nice to look at, but the painting should evoke a certain rasa. That's the goal of the painting. So when you look at these pictures, you can feel that also. No? That's why Prabhupada also said that pictures, they are the windows into the spiritual world. It's not just any odd drawing, but it should evoke these feelings to actually want to engage with Krishna and go deeper in this relationship. So that's one aspect of rasa. And then, of course, ultimately, we know that in the Upanishads also, it is said that rasa vaisaha, that actually the Lord is rasa. That's what he's made of. That's his eternal form. And in this way also, he's the one who enjoys rasa. And there it can be translated rasa as a kind of spiritual rapture or emotion. And that's also what the devotees strive for, to experience this rasa. In giving pleasure to Krishna, we can also partake in that rasa. And that's also what bhakti eventually means. No? It's about these emotions. To bring out these emotions to Krishna, the love for Krishna, which is there in all of us, but is now covered. And then in this way, to go deeper and deeper, to drown in that ocean of rasa. Sri Prabhupada also said, no, we should become just mad after Krishna. It's not just any kind of relationship with a person, but it's actually a certain kind of madness. Like we can see in Lord Chaitanya, when he's just forgetting everything else and getting totally absorbed in this rasa, in this exchange, this relationship with Krishna. And this is what we try to achieve. And of course, many of us, me especially, we're in the beginning stages, and still we can kind of perceive these glimpses of what rasa actually is, this taste. And that's also what makes bhakti so attractive. The other day I was distributing books in Lucerne, and there's always these dialoguers. They're doing some charity work. They gather money to then send for different projects. And these guys that work there, most of them, they're kind of students or people that just need some quick money. So they just get sent out on the street, and basically every day they have different, or any week, they have different organizations that they collect for. So it's quite obvious they don't have a very deep connection to the purpose of each charity. But anyway, I often meet them, and they're very much interested in our books also. So that's why we have a good rasa there, good relationship, because they're often seeking for something deeper, and they're also in general people who are thinking about life. That's why they engage also with these projects. But then last time I was talking to one of their coaches. So they have the foot soldiers, the ones on the front, just trying to acquire people. And then there's the coaches who teach them how they can get better in their field. So one of these coaches, he approached me. Actually, not only did he approach me, he brought one of his guys to me, who was maybe youngish, maybe 20 something personality, and he was not feeling so well, he was not inspired, he wanted to know more about life, he didn't know who he was, and he asked all these questions about himself. So the dialogue coach, he went all the way from where the stand was to me. I was a little bit far away actually, on the opposite side. But still, he took this guy and brought him to me and told him, look, this is the one you should speak to. He can give you something that will make you actually know yourself better, and this way get happy. And I was quite surprised and happy to see, of course. And then we talked a little bit, and this guy was really into it, Schönheit des Selbst. It's all about science of self-realization, all about finding out who we actually are. And he was, wow, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And we also exchanged numbers, and in this way, it was a very nice exchange. And then afterwards, the coach, he was blissed out, He was like, you and me, you're Krishnas, and us, we're like a team on the streets. Because I was saying, thank you very much that you brought him to me, And he said, yeah, no problem, always. Because, I got taught, my teacher, my coach, he told me, whenever you see these Krishnas on the street, watch them. Watch them and try to learn from them. They can do what nobody else can do. They are the best dialoguers in this world. And this comes from somebody who's been doing it for a long time. So he was saying like that you have something special. We can see, you stand behind what you're doing, and you love what you're doing. And of course, exactly that's what we try to present to others. It's not that we want to so much convince them of something theoretical, but we want to give them practical experience of what is bhakti, what is this all about, and in this way get them some taste of rasa, basically, right? And I was just thinking, that's the essence. The essential point of us is not to be very philosophically strong, or to know so many things and do this and that so expertly, but it's all about the emotions in the motivation why we're doing it. And the more it becomes pure, the more people will also respond on a different level. They will feel the soul aspect, the contact of the soul, the happiness that is coming forth from the soul. But yeah, too often we're so much entrapped in trying to enjoy this world, right? In Bhagavad Gita, there's Krishna lists the 8 different elements. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kamanubhuti revacha ankaramiti bina prakriti rashtada. And then he says in the next verse, yayadam dharyate jagat. So there's these 8 elements, and then besides this, there is a higher prakriti. That's us, the living entity. And this living entity, what is he doing? He tries to take advantage, to exploit matter and get happiness in this way. It's not possible. That's I think we've come to realize to some degree. We're still trying to realize more. It's like the example is given once Charu Prabhu, a very nice devotee, Prabhupada disciple. He shared how it's basically like we're covered by these elements, right? So water, air, ether, that's the body. And then even subtler. So it's like we're wearing a glove, and we want to experience the world. We want to touch something nice. So if we have a glove and we try to, get some pleasure out of this cushion, for example, it will not be the same. It will be so much numbed down and just to some very remote feeling of touch. So like this, it's like we're always wearing this glove. Actually, we're like an astronaut, in this kind of, what do you call that, space suit. And how much can you really experience in a space suit from this world, You cannot even breathe the air. You have some filters that come and like that. So in this way, this body is like a space suit that is not actually fit to experience the real happiness. And so that's why Srimad Bhagavatam and Narada Muni here in this way give us the knowledge that no, it's not working, you're not this body. Try to understand this very deeply. And instead, seek juice from where it's actually coming from. Seek this rasa in the relationship with Krishna. So again, what is rasa? Basically, in Ayurveda, they say rasa is the taste, is the juice, is the nectar. And so in the body, it's basically the plasma, or the part of the blood that is liquidish. It's like they say, it's like a milky substance, and it's distributed all over the body. And its function is to distribute the nutrients to the finer tissues, which is done by the wind. Like we here also know that that the wind actually distributes this rasa in the particle of water. By wind, it gets carried onto the branch of the tree. So in this way, the plasma in the body gets distributed, the nutrients get distributed, and in this way, the body becomes satisfied. I mean, you have this experience when you have a wholesome prasadam, like we get a lot here in the temple, where everything is very much satisfied. You feel very good, because just the quality of the prasadam, just on a kind of nutritional level, is very good. It satisfies the body. And this way then also the mind gets satisfied. And this in turn brings deeper emotions. So rasa is also connected with desire, compassion, love, on a more subtle level. But on what is it dependent? The rasa that is actually really nourishing the body, on the agni, right? So if the agni is not there, the fire of digestion is not really there, then even if you get the rasa, you cannot really process it nicely. And so in a similar way, I hope I don't speak too fast, in a similar way also, there's the fire in the stomach, there's a fire in the mind, or the fire of intelligence, you can say, which is supposed to burn away the ignorance, the just reactions that we usually have as a conditioned living entity to just enjoy. Whatever comes in front of us, the mind will say, I like this, I don't like this. The senses, they tell him. And so then the intelligence just gives in, okay, let's do this. Let's try to get some more happiness from what anyway we tried 100 times before, but it didn't work. Maybe this time it will work. So in this way, if the intelligence is not burning, if there's no fire, no strength, no Agni in the intelligence, then the rasa cannot be transformed into something really nutritious, something that makes one satisfied. So that's why, again, this allegory, it helps us to sharpen the intelligence. It helps us to come to the right conclusion, like in accordance with Shastra, not just from what we perceive, because we can see that our intelligence is not functioning so very well. We don't do always the best, what is best for self-interest. So by repeatedly hearing that's said, then the intelligence gets purified. And it also means to be a thinker, to use the intelligence to think not only short-term but long-term. We can see it in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, Arjuna, even though it's a kind of material intelligence, but still he's thinking of many, many generations to come in the first chapter, when he's kind of having a breakdown. Because he thinks of, what's going to happen if we fight this war? What's going to happen? First there will be so many people will die, the men will die, so the women are unprotected. Then there will be Varna Shankara, the progeny will not be good. And in this way, the whole civilization will collapse. So what good is there in engaging in such a war? So in this way, a strong intelligence, a strong fire of intelligence is there in his mind. But then it gets covered, obviously, by Yogamaya to fulfill the purpose of speaking Bhagavad Gita. So, but this point of us becoming very deep thinkers is important to more and more get the rasa. That's why they say there is tattva, there is rasa. So first one has to go through tattva, to understand the tattva. What is actually Siddhanta? What are the scriptures telling us? Who is Krishna? Who are we? How to get to him? In this way, one can understand what spiritual life is all about. And that's why also, for example, the Gurukulis, that's what they get trained in the first place. Because what is the function of intelligence also? It's to discern, to differentiate between what is beneficial and what is not. And another one is that it has the function of remembering things, dharana, to keep things in the mind. That's why in Gurukul, kids from very young age, what do? They learn tons of shlokas. All the time they're engaged in chanting mantras, because it's very much purifying, and it helps them to absorb the Shastra in their mind, not only from outside, but they have it inside on repeat. If you learn shlokas, you can also see that phenomena. It just pops up, and you get reminded of what is actually this all about. And so they're learning that, and in this way you can say that the hearing process is the first step of our spiritual life, also because it helps to purify the intelligence. It helps us to really get to develop a strong fire of intelligence, which then can also process the more subtle things, the more subtle rasa that's coming. And that's why also there is a need for this very strong directions that we hear here. Sometimes it's a little blank, or how you call it, little sobering, strong words. So it's very much needed, because our mind is so much entrapped in sense enjoyment for life after life that we need to hear this over and over again. And that's why also the spiritual master can be very heavy. One time, Kadamba Kanna Maharaj, he was with the brahmachari assistant, and This brahmachari assistant, this servant, he was very much into philosophy and studying and reading. And actually he was engaged there in a project of understanding the different sampradayas and make a little paper for Kadambakarna Swami. And then once they were sitting in a room, and in the next room there were some children crying very loudly. And Kadambakarna Maharaj could see that this devotee wasn't really paying attention to the reading, he was a little disturbed. So he told him, "You like reading, do you?" And the disciple said, "Yes, Guru Maharaj." And then he said, "Once you have this, you will not be able to read." in indicating, once you do that step of giving in to lust, if it's in this motivation, then it will be very difficult for you to pursue a spiritual life. So, in this way, these examples, these teachings, they help us to sharpen our intelligence, to make us aware of what actually Krishna consciousness means, of how we can get a deeper and deeper experience of it. And of course, all of this is not only to make us detached from the material world, but also to make us attached to Krishna, to get the real thing, the real rasa. And in this connection, I just wanted to read a little bit from Navraj Mahima. It's a well-known pastime of Krishna, but maybe you haven't heard it before, and it's really beautiful. Where this gets very much discussed. The point of Prabhupada speaks here about the adi rasa, or the sexual mellow, but of course we can just understand that in the spiritual world, it's not what we think of here when we speak of sexual relationship. It's something very, very deep and very pure. So this is a story of Krishna and Radharani, and of course takes place in Vrindavan. Once in Vrindavan, by the independent course of pure ecstatic love, Srimati Radharani developed and displayed attachment for Shyama Sundar before he displayed attachment for her. After all, the inclination for love awakens in young women before young men. Thus, the foremost doe-eyed gopi of Vrindavan felt the pangs of passion even before the divine couple met. And of course, it's interesting that before they meet, so Radha and Krishna, there's a first time of meeting, right? And if you think about it in linear terms, at some point they must meet the first time, and before they have not met. At the same time, they're eternally together, enjoying. So this is the mystery of the spiritual world. "Oh friend," Radharani said, "who uttered that name, Krishna? Somehow it slipped in through my ears and from there crept into my heart. Now the timid doe of my life airs trembles as the fragrance of newborn excitement." Shishi Jangnapadev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Shishi Gornitai ki jai. Radharani continues, "To forget this name seems impossible. By its mysterious effect, I feel like I've been deranged. I'm afraid." Tightening her grip on Lalita's hand, Radha whispered, "Oh Lalita, what will become of me?" And looking into her friend's eyes, Radharani stammered, "What will I do now? What will I do?" And Lalita, what does she say? "Behold, a saintly young girl on the brink of defaming her family." At this, Radha lowered her face and covered her mouth with her hands. But Lalita could sense a drop of joy concealed in Radha's heart. Sometime later, Krishna, along with Balaram and their cowherd friends, entered Vrindavan forest. It was springtime, and when Cupid beheld Krishna's soft bluish-black limbs, he thought, "Ah, some thoughtful person has created a spring festival for me in the form of this delightful cowherd." To provoke Krishna's senses, Cupid showered him with flower arrows from above. So just like in this material world, we were hearing how there is this spring air carrying the rasa to the living entity, and in this way arouses his sensual organs. In the same way, In the spiritual world, it all happens. Cupid is there to arrange everything. So it's very interesting, this the perverted reflection. From below, Cupid enticed Krishna with the fragrance of the earth, and from all sides he assailed him with the hum of honey bees, the call of cuckoos, and the aromatic caress of spring breezes. Just then, Krishna glanced back over his shoulder, and caught a glimpse of Radha standing amidst her friends. He pretended not to see her, but the sight of her struck his heart like a thunderbolt. Krishna whispered, Sridham, have you ever seen the jewel named Radha, the most beautiful girl in the universe? Sridham silently lowered his face, his dark complexion now softly glowing red. Subal blurted out, Krishna, why would you ask Sridham if he has seen Radha? Of course he has. Radha is his sister. Embarrassed, Krishna meekly glanced at Sridham from the corners of his eyes. Krishna says, where is she? Please bring Radha here at once. And Madhu says, I will place her in your hand. But first you must give me dakshina. To accept gifts from a brahmana without compensation is irreligious. So Krishna gives him a garland, jasmine garland. And with a voice full of respect, Madhu then says, now, you may take her. And Krishna gazed in disbelief at the palm-sized leaf Madhu held out to him and thought, how can he treat me like this? This is no time for jest. So Madhu Mangal gives him a leaf. And Krishna reached forward cautiously and took the golden leaf from Madhu's hand. In large bold letters he saw the word Radha. Stunned, his hand trembling, Krishna fixed his gaze on Radha's name. He felt as if his parched eyes had crossed a desert of formlessness and plunged into a nectar ocean of transcendental form. The syllables Radha appeared like the sun and moon united to soothe his heart. Radha's name was a divine proclamation of love, the ultimate relief for his distress, an irrepressible source of happiness. Krishna prayed, O Radha, your auspicious name is sweeter than the glistening nectar. It makes the residents of the universe ecstatic and causes the hairs of their bodies to stand on end. Today I have seen the matchless form of perfection, the victory banner of your holy name. Full of gratitude, Krishna smiled at Madhu. Friend, you have truly done a great service. In my hour of need, you revealed Radha's form to me. For this, I am forever indebted. I cannot thank you enough. And then Radharani, she's at home and cannot meet Krishna. She cannot even go out, whereas Krishna is freely wandering the forest, and she's getting more and more morose. And in this kind of mood, the gopis, they don't know what to do. Lalita and Vishaka are wise. What is unknown to them? What is unknown to them is not to be known by anyone else. Their only concern is Radha's pleasure. Indeed, they constantly think, how can we make Radha happy? So then Radha's hands froze, and she stared in stunned silence at her hair. Lalita and Vishaka exchanged glances. If we do not pacify the princess, they thought, her melancholy will spread like a plague. First, we will die, then Vrindavan will perish, and finally the universe will be consumed by her sorrow. Lalita stroked Radha's hair. Friend, when you heard Krishna's flute, I blocked your ears. When you gazed at Krishna's handsome form, I covered your eyes. Yet despite my efforts, you were determined to be captivated. Radha sighed, and her heavy breath withered the flowers in her garland. So in this way, there's a sweet exchange between them, and there's only one hope, how they can actually pacify Radha. Lalita, this is no time to lose hope, Vishaka says with a glance. Make Radha write a letter to her beloved, that will steady her. Lalita felt encouraged. What better way to engage Radha's unhinged mind than composing a love letter? A message to Krishna would appeal to him, and a heartfelt entreaty would surely bring the two together. Lalita smiled. Stroking Radha's head, she gently lifted Radha's chin and looked into her eyes. Absorbed in thoughts of you, Krishna embraces his yellow dhoti, speaks nonsense, and repeatedly falls to the ground. His friends say that he is in such a state he cannot even taste the sweetness of sugar. Vishaka added, they say he just gazes at the moon. Separated from you, he feels distraught. His body is gaunt and lusterless. To hide in darkness, he calls the clouds, and when they depart, he sighs. Tell Krishna how you feel and insist that only a meeting, if even for the twinkling of an eye, will save you from death. Friend, he who drowns in an ocean of sorrow will rush to your side and give you joy. So then Radha says, Lalita, you write the letter. You are the wisest of my friends, and you know the secrets of my heart. Can Krishna refuse your request? I think not. But then they come to the conclusion, Radhika, you must write the letter, but we will help you. And so when she starts to write, she takes a lotus petal and gazes on the lotus petal, and what does she see? Dark Krishna gazing at her with bumblebee eyes. As she closed her eyes, she saw his youthful form from within her heart. Where was he not, this black apparition of love? The ink was vermilion, the color of Radha's ecstasy. She dipped the stylus into it and then touched the stylus to the leaf. Carefully she wrote, Krish, and that was all. A torrent of emotions overpowered her. Countless volumes of Vedic wisdom are unable to describe what Radha perceived in but an instant. She erupted with a divine passion, like a volcano from which flowed the molten lava of pure love. The waves of her ecstasies crashed on all sides. The walls melted, and the floor gave way as her friends looked on. In an instant, the gopis were forcibly dragged into the vortex of Radha's absorption in love. It was as if they were one with Radha, seeing, feeling, smelling, hearing, and tasting as she did. And Radha saw Krishna dressed in yellow silk, playing the flute and smiling more sweetly than Cupid. One prahara had passed. One prahara is 3 hours. Vishaka spoke to Lalita through a glance. Friend, at this rate, the letter will take millenniums to write. So 3 hours they were just there sitting and gazing at this Krish. Her hand still on Radha's hair, Lalita said, O Radha, beloved of Krishna, you have composed a very nice letter. I think you have included everything that needs to be said, and more. In repeated lifetimes, Krishna may someday come to the end of this letter. Puzzled, Radha stared at the petal in her hand. Her ecstasy would not allow her to comprehend what Lalita meant, and all she could see was Krish. And again, with a quizzical look, she glanced at her friends. Vishaka said, let us send this excellent letter to Krishna through a reliable messenger. With a flick of her eyebrows, Vishaka Devi called Rati Manjari, who shyly stepped forward. So in this way, Rati Manjari was sent to meet Krishna. Krishna was strolling the fields, and he was also very morose. He was not playing with the cowherds. He just left them alone and went off into the forest. But of course, Madhu Mangal and Subal, they ran after him. Subal, his voice heavy with affection, said, Friend, what is wrong? Why have you left your blissful cows and gopas to sulk in this lonely place? Obviously you are distressed. Please, tell us what is wrong. Nothing is wrong, Krishna replied. But Subal insisted, Friend, you can't hide from us. We can see your heart. And then he started to cry, and Subal calls out, Oh Govinda, what are these tears? Why are you crying? Oh friend, you are my life. Seeing you in such a state breaks my heart into 100 pieces. And then, Friend, fear not, Madhu Mangal says. Of course he comes in. With my command of Vedic spells and skill in mixing potions, I shall bring this girl to you without delay. I will gather herbs from the forest and chant the mantras at once. And Subal said, on the strength of my arms, which never fail in subduing demons, I vow to you that we will arrange a meeting with your beloved. She will become a flower garland around your neck. The words and desires of Krishna's dear friends moved the compass of divine fate. Just as the boy were speaking, Rati and her girlfriends arrived, as timid as wide-eyed does stepping out into a forest meadow. At the sight of Krishna, the girls were apprehensive, but spurred on by their fealty to Radha's love, they strode bravely into his presence, albeit with eyes turned shyly towards the ground. Making much of this divine coincidence, Madhu bragged, "Just witness the mystic power of a pure Brahmana. Simply by my desire, these girls, led by Radha's dearest Rati, have appeared." And then they inquire, is Radharani well? And of course, then Rati says, not really. She's actually very, very despondent. And Krishna inquires what she's doing and gets more and more disappointed by hearing how she's really, really badly feeling there. And so Rati calls out, "O joy of Raja, don't be sad. Your beloved desires to meet you, and for that reason she has written you a letter." "A letter?" Krishna exclaimed. "She wrote me a letter?" Rati reached into her apron for the golden container, and while Krishna watched excitedly, she removed the lotus petal as if it were a priceless treasure. Rati held out the love letter and said, "Krishna, please take this lotus petal." Krishna looked at the petal in Rati's hand, but before taking it, he removed a gunja necklace from his neck and garlanded her. And so he gives the letter to Madhumangal. "Dear friend, please read this letter. I have no doubt it must be a reservoir of nectar for the ears." Madhu eagerly accepted the letter, but opening it he saw Krish and nothing else. Madhu may be greedy for sweets and given always to humor, but he is also a peerless connoisseur of rasa. Only Krishna is qualified to read this letter, he thought. When Krishna impatiently insisted that he begin reading, Madhumangal rolled his eyes and replied, "Friend, this is an exceedingly long letter. Better you read it. This sort of letter is best read only by the one for whom it's meant." So then Krishna takes it. And he reads it and is stunned. And Madhumangal says, "Krishna, what does the letter say?" He tried to speak, but his throat was choked with emotion. And so after some time he cleared his voice, wiped his eyes, and read aloud the whole letter that has expanded now. And we'll not go into that. And then Rati says, "Okay, there's only one thing you can do now. You have to write a letter also. That is the only thing that will satisfy Radharani." And so Krishna said, I should write a letter? And Rati immediately gives him a petal. Yes, she already has everything ready. Gives him stylus and petal. So then he has this petal in his lap. Krishna readied the stylus to begin his letter. Slowly he wrote Ra and stopped. That was all he wrote. Radha could only write Krish, and all he could write was Ra. What was Ra? It was the magic mirror in which Krishna saw the future, the bank of the Yamuna on a full moon night, a lamplit kunj, and himself waiting for Srimati Radharani. In these two letters, Krishna could hear ankle bells and the music of the rasa dance, see mind-enchanting dance steps, and feel the joy of a meeting that would begin with the words, "You have come." So in this way there's much more description. He gives the letter to Rati, and Rati brings it back. "Now you must read that gentle coward's letter. Even the petal upon which he has written is pleasing to the eyes and the heart. Just imagine then the many wonderful things within them." And of course Radharani is very pleased, and immediately upon reading the letter, which is only Ra, but it expands into that Krishna wants to meet her at the Yamuna, she immediately wants to prepare herself. And finally, the whole dark atmosphere gets lifted. At nightfall, followed by her happy friends who had each carried the accoutrements for her particular service, Radha crossed beyond the threshold of her home and of Raja's religious traditions. Radha did not hesitate to plunge into the forest with her great love and eagerness to please Krishna. She ground into dust any obstacle between them. Dust then mingled with the dust of Braja. When everyone in Nandagram had gone to sleep, Krishna left home and with the heart of excitement turned the sand beneath his feet into diamond dust, which also mixed with the dust of Raj. Upon arriving at the riverside, Krishna finally beheld Radha. At the sight of him, her girlfriends crept into the shadows of the forest to watch in silence as Krishna gazed at Radha and she gazed back at him. After so much waiting, so much anticipation, the divine couple finally stood face to face. It was their first meeting, or was it? They were both certain that they had met many, many times before. By having spoken each other's names many times in separation, they had seen and felt each other's presence many times before. Those meetings were no less real than the meeting they now relished. Both Radha and Krishna thought, the person here before me is the embodiment of the name I have been cherishing in my heart. The first words they spoke, then, were each other's names. And as they did, the gopis hiding nearby, the forest creatures, and foliage alike, all repeated those same two names, Radha and Krishna, as they fully relished the divine couple's first meeting. Shri Radha Krishna ki jai. So in this way, we can understand that there is so much rasa to come in the pastimes of Krishna, and that's where we want to go. And to get there, we have to do both: hear about Krishna and also get detached from the material world. And that's why this story of Puranjana is given, to make us understand that there is no real rasa in this material world. So it's already past 8:30. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Bhakta Lukas ki jai.